Do you remember the times when every website you browsed was full of color and felt a bit more alive? So a lot of texture, sometimes a bit of chaos. Even the hardware that we browsed on and the buildings that we went to, like this McDonald's, they all felt a bit more fun. In today's video, we're going to talk about that. We are going to discover why everything went from this fun and exciting and crazy design to something that is more flat and unified and maybe a bit boring. Back in early 2000s, when internet was not yet in every household and we didn't have it on our phones, those were the times where people just like you and me were building things on internet. And all of these people back then, they were not developers. Some of them, of course, were, and they were moving the industry forward. However, there were so many people that just learned the CSS, HTML. All of these people were just trying to build something that they imagined and they tried to make the most out of it. Some were professional websites and some just random projects. In some ways, all of this was really fun. All of those websites were, to today's standards, kind of overly done, or they were too much. People were really kind of getting tired of that. In order to understand this evolution of web and design, we need to understand why the design that was done back in the days was done in such a way, and we need to understand why that transitioned to something simpler and more unified. We need to look a bit into the history. In 2008, the financial economic crisis hit. People were getting laid off, and a lot of companies were saving everywhere where they could. They were trying to make their time as productive as possible. They were cutting down costs, they were removing people, and they were basically just trying to make everything simpler. And back then, when millennials were trying to get their first jobs and find their place in the job market, all of it was kind of crumbling down. According to this article, the unemployment rate of artists increased to 6%, 63% increase compared to 2007. In this financial crisis, when everyone was getting laid off, the creative departments were the first ones to go. Some companies were laying off their designers and creative departments as their first options because they could not see the immediate results of marketing and creative departments. What happens if all these creatives and designers are let go? What happens if all these design decisions are put aside and left for later date? This results in less creativity and it results in safety rather than experimentation. So what did that mean for us and for the users and for the internet overall and even apps? Well, it meant this. Enter the flat era. The flat design did not come out of nowhere. Back in 1920, when these two guys, Josef Müller-Bergmann and Armin Hoffmann, created flat design, it was criticized by so-called experts and many designers across the world. But then, in 1940, it already gained popularity, and many designers started adopting it across all fields of design. And while flat design back then was naturally print first, it did carry over to digital interfaces. 2010. Microsoft was kind of jealous of Apple and their iPod. They wanted to create their own version of an iPod and a media player. They called it Zune. Zune was the first device from Microsoft that came with Metro UI, their new flat design UI that was this novelty. It was utilizing design elements like large grids, big typography, and bold and colorful shapes. In 2013, Apple came in with a response. iOS 7, the revolutionary OS for iPhones. So many people went crazy when Apple introduced it because it was something novel, something new. While it wasn't the first flat design interface that we could see on devices, but it was made by Apple, so everyone had something to say. The flat design was a response to economic situation. It was safe, cost-cutting, and it was useful for small devices like iPhones and iPods. But why did this happen? Who made it happen? Who was responsible for creating this flat design that felt very simple and boring compared to what we have experienced in early 2000s, compared to the websites that were overly done, that were full of colors and were kind of crazy in some sense. Who is to blame for the flat design? The answer is millennials. Sorry millennials, but you ruined the internet for us. Let's get real for a second. Millennials were drivers of the change, but they were not just trying to make something boring. Millennials were trying to survive. They were trying to strip down things and live more minimalist life because of their financial situation. They were stripping their homes down from decorations and they were trying to make everything simple and as efficient as possible. Millennials tried to survive. They tried to make the most out of what they had available. It was happening also in the digital world. And hence we have flat design, which so many people call boring these days. But what is happening to design now? What is the shift here? Are we still doing the flat design and are we still making the internet boring? Or are we now getting to that juicy stuff? Are we now making everything look cooler? And while we could be talking about trends in what is going to happen in 2026, and we could be talking about what to look out for when creating your new brand or website. But this is not a video like that. We want to figure out the real deal. So what is happening in today's world? What is happening to design? And is it still being flat and kind of boring, or are we getting into a new era? Well, the truth is maybe the fact that people, and especially Gen Z, are valuing maximalism or rather individualism over simplicity, and everyone is trying to express themselves. And this is true also for companies. Companies are going to be using their websites and their branding and apps to express themselves more creatively. Many companies like Airbnb, for example, are implementing more fun and little tweaks to their designs, like these icons. And while the skeuomorphic design and maximalist design that is happening in digital interfaces might be a trend, I believe that this is a shift rather than a trend. In today's day and age, we are going to be mixing many things together, where flat design is here to stay, but it will be accompanied by fun and little tweaks on the apps that we use every day or the websites that we browse. It will be created with more intent and with more creativity, especially with AI trying to replicate everything we do. And I believe that us designers are going to be encouraged to explore and experiment more, just like back in the day where all those designers or non-designers were exploring and experimenting. And I think this is going to be fun times for all of us that will be using the internet and looking at design of all kinds.